Yo, what's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we got a brand new video on Bitcoin with the ETF news coming out left and right now. ETFs being approved for tomorrow, potentially 2 ETFs getting approved for tomorrow and starting to trade tomorrow. So one of the ETFs is the ProShares Bitcoin Futures ETF to start trading tomorrow, October 19th. So this is obviously less of what we really want. We want a spot-based ETF, something that is based off of the price of Bitcoin or physically backed by Bitcoin. Futures and derivatives, I don't know why they're going down this road, but for some reason they are. But there is unofficial, obviously. So the second Bitcoin Futures ETF looks to have the green light for tomorrow / Wednesday. So that would be the Valkyrie ETF right here. That Bloomberg got a listing action from the exchange for the Valkyrie ETF with the ticker BTF. And so this is just something interesting coming on. There's a lot going on with these Bitcoin ETFs and the launch of them. There's going to be a lot of hype around them. And we see that in the Bitcoin price, obviously sustaining over 60K and had one of the the largest weekly close ever in Bitcoin at like 61,500, something like that. But these ETFs are going to be playing a big role in getting these Bitcoin itself to be more legitimized, something that investors and people can start to look at and stop questioning and stuff. Obviously, the SEC moving in the right direction here with ETFs, future ETFs, and eventually we hope to get a spot ETF, hopefully next year, but it might be a few years out from now to actually getting that spot ETF. And on top of ETFs, we have Interactive Brokers announcing that they will empower registered investment advisors across the United States to invest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And this means hundreds of billions of dollars can now enter the market more easily. And it's actually a lot more money than that. It is actually over $100 trillion in assets managed by RIA, these registered investment advisors and Interactive Brokers, bridging this gap, allowing this $100 trillion worth of assets. It's between like 61 million people involved, adds up to 100 trillion in assets under management by them. And that is going to obviously lead a lot of price action in Bitcoin and crypto. Even 100 trillion, even 1% going into Bitcoin doubles Bitcoin's price, $1 trillion roughly, into it's about at 1.1 trillion, 1.2 almost trillion. So that would push Bitcoin to roughly $120,000 very quickly for just 1% going into Bitcoin. So imagine 10%. Now you're talking $10 trillion going into Bitcoin and even crypto. These is crazy numbers that can come from this, and a lot of price discovery and price appreciation can happen because of this. And it comes by just allowing these people and these investment advisors, individuals and people, the ability to go into Bitcoin and just put their money where they want it to be. And if they want to put in Bitcoin, that's great. Now they have that opportunity. And my guess is probably going to be more than 1%. But this is going to open up the doors to, a lot of money and a lot of people to get into Bitcoin finally. And then the last for the ETF news is Grayscale confirms that its plans to convert its Bitcoin fund into a Bitcoin ETF. So it's slightly different on how it would work, turning into an ETF from a fund. But this is ultimately what we really want. We want this Bitcoin spot ETF, physically backed Bitcoin in this ETF form. That's what Grayscale is trying to do here. And with them trying to convert into that, with the passing of this futures ETF and getting that on the market and trading, I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal people think. I mean, a few $1 billion maybe into like these futures things. It's more of a vehicle around institutions and people like that to try and take advantage of opportunities and make some money. But in the long term, the futures and derivatives ETF is probably going to underperform Bitcoin itself in a long period of time. So that's why we want this spot ETF, physically backed Bitcoin, no derivatives, no weird sort of sets of rules and how they work and futures and all of this stuff. Just simple Bitcoin. That's it. That's all we need. And Grayscale wants to get that done. And with a fund that's spot Bitcoin, we might see something. I mean, if you Canada's Bitcoin ETF, I think is like $30 billion. So one in the US would be at least 30 billion, probably being able to push the 100 billions. So I think it would be a big move for a spot ETF, not so big of a move that maybe people are expecting with a futures ETF, but still steps in the right direction. And even with all of this Bitcoin ETF news, the hype around Bitcoin is still very, very low. You see the beginning of this year was around this time period. The interest exploded, stayed pretty high for the beginning of the year, tapered down, and had another little peak here in the middle of the year. And then this was most likely the crash that happened from like 50% correction, and a lot of people just kind of died out and stopped losing it or losing interest in Bitcoin. And seeing that shows that like this price we're at isn't a FOMO price or something, whereas maybe that was more obvious back here, like 65K was a FOMO price, and that was a time where there was a substantial correction that was possible, and we saw it play out that way. But right now we're at super low levels, and even comparable to the beginning of the year. So, I mean, if we have another run like the beginning of the year, obviously that would be massive price appreciation. Right now, there's 85% of Bitcoin is stored away in cold storage, long-term holders, people who are unwilling to sell. So it's not going to be very easy to buy Bitcoin if demand skyrockets. There's just not that supply on the market. So the price would have to skyrocket to accommodate that. We would see, you know, massive price appreciation, massive more FOMO, and massive more talks about it. And that's where this level would probably spike out again and maybe, you know, threaten another correction. But at that point, who knows what price Bitcoin would actually be at. And talking about price, just end this video off with a little bit of technical stuff that I found on Twitter. People talking about Bitcoin cycle in history has ended with a red month followed by 2 or 3 very green months. That's what people have been talking about, end of the year rally for multiple things. So 2011, you see the red month, and then 3 massive green months. You even go to the next one, 2013, again, red month, and then 2 massive green months. So equates to massive jumps that are, you know, the 3 months could have led up to this jump, just happened quicker in 2 months. And then you have 2017, red month, and then 3 green months going into the bear market there. And then 2021, right now, we're seeing red month. Are we going to see 3 green months? Are we going to see this rally to over 100K, 180,000 would probably be more of a target on like this type of chart. But I think that the super cycle theory is still in play here. We can still see that there's a chance where we don't just absolutely explode and FOMO explode. If that does happen, then we'll probably have a substantial drawback if that happens. But I think we're more in a situation where people want to buy and hold Bitcoin for the long term, and that's going to bring price appreciation, bring the price up, but it's not going to explode. I don't think we're going to see this massive FOMO drive unless Bitcoin takes over the mainstream media again. Then maybe we see that. But I think super cycle stuff, we could just see a slow grind up into something like the next halving and not have to deal with this massive bear market. We even actually earlier in the year, during like this time period right here, was actually a mini bear market. That is, it was very bearish. Market sentiment was bearish. The charts were bearish. Fundamentals were still great, but this was a mini bear market. And, you know, if you held through that and were able to ignore the price during that, then even if we do see another bear market for a year or a year and a half, 2 years leading up to the next halving, if you could get through this period here, then you should be able to just replicate this on a longer time frame and try and get through the next bear market, should that actually happen. And then just end this video off, the same guy actually talking about 2021 Bitcoin is repeating 2013 on the macro, and it couldn't be any clearer. So a bunch of different things circled here. And everyone's been comparing Bitcoin to 2013, the run, saying it's very similar, and it really is. So see April high, so a little pump here to a high with a correction, kind of stagnant for this time period here. July bounce, October breakout, April high, this is 2021 now, April high into this kind of downward trend, stagnant a little bit, July bounce, and then October breakout. So, I mean, just repeating this would be this 840 would be equal to about $165,000 per Bitcoin. And even the RSI stuff, I'm not a super technical trader or anything, but it does look, when you look at these certain time periods here, it is very, very similar. And I just think that maybe things play out a little bit like they did before, but I don't think we'll see the massive downside in bear market. I mean, there's not even massive downside here, really. Like, it ran up and kind of had a downturn, but then came right back to these levels. So I think that we have a chance to see that, to see a massive pump in price to a point where if it's too massive, if it's like really big, like $300,000, $400,000 in a FOMO price, we'll probably have a 50% correction. But if it runs up to like 125K, 165K, I think that's sustainable to be a price where people continue to trickle in. It can kind of find support here, sustain, and then continue slowly grinding up, not in like a FOMO rally. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Bitcoin looking great still. Very excited to see how these ETFs play out. I don't think they're going to be a massive thing at all. Maybe even not even as big as some people are making them out to be. A spot-based one is what we're really waiting for. But we will see if and when we get that. I think it's somewhere down the line pretty soon, actually. But as always, guys, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. See you guys in my next video.